You may be seated. The court is now back in session. The prosecutor, you may resume your questioning of the witness. May thank you, Mr. President. Allow me to resume. My question to you is in regards to your returning back to Cambodia. Did you return to Cambodia voluntarily or were you forced to? Response. In fact, it was a voluntary return. I was not forced to do so. As I said earlier, I thought of my country, and my wife had already returned in January, 6 months prior to my return. So there were several reasons for me to return. Question: why did your wife return to Cambodia before you? Response. My wife was a professor and she was never involved in politics. She only thought of the culture and the French and the Khmer literature. However, after our marriage, and as I wanted her to return to Cambodia, and so she did. Although she never said of anything regarding her return to Cambodia, that was because of my advice. Thank you. Question: so it means that you both agreed to return to Cambodia? Response: yes, you can say so. Thank you. Question: with whom did you return to Cambodia at the time? Response: I can recall it clearly. It was in July 1976. Amongst us, there were former military personnel from the United States. There were about 10 of them. There were chargé d'affaires of the Krung from Cuba, Mr. Posing and his wife, who was the daughter of a Khmer film star, Dara Dirivat, and a daughter. And there were the wife of Sraiton, who was the younger in-law of Madame Ieng Thiret. He married the younger sister of Ieng Thiret. And Miss Thon was probably a chargé d'affaires in East Germany And a while after she died, the 3 children came along, as well as the mother of Ieng Theret also on board. And Ieng Thirat, the daughter of Ieng Theret, also came along. At that time, the person was a professor at the secondary school. So for that family, there was Ieng Theret's mother, 2 of her younger sisters, and 3 nephews. In fact, 1 niece and 2 nephews. Thank you. Question. While you were traveling together with those who you just described, was the wife of Ieng Sari and the relatives of the family give you any information regarding the situation back home? Response. The memory that I had was that they all had sad faces. I could not say whether the sadness was the result of her husband who just passed away, that is the one who was the ambassador to East Germany, or whether the sadness because of their return to the country. But they were a friendly group of people, and I really respected the mother of Mr. Ieng Theret. She did not speak much, and I respected her as I respected my mother. She was gentle in her speech, and that family in general were not politically motivated. They did not know much about politics. They never joined Funk. That's how my impression was. And the reason for their returning to Cambodia was that maybe because of the son who held a senior position in the country, and maybe because the daughter of Miss Thon, whose father passed away recently, had a very sad face and wept occasionally. I'm not sure why she wept. It could be because she was forced to return home, or for some other reasons, but in general they were quiet and friendly while we were on the plane. Regarding other people, including those military personnel from the United States, they were actually those who recently fled from Kampong Sam to Thailand, and they were former residents in Cambodia Crown, and their wish was to return back home to defend their country. And sometimes some of them were experts in different fields, and for the purpose of defending the country. Thank you. Question. Before your return to Cambodia, did you receive any bad news regarding the situation back home? And if so, what was the news about? Response. The news that I really wanted to hear is in relation to my wife. Who had returned to Cambodia before me. I was really anxious as I did not receive any news at all after her return. And for those who were lucky to live, including Sung Si Kuon or En Suphip, who left with the delegation, I kept asking people about the whereabouts of my wife, and I was told she was okay. She was at the pedagogical institute, etc. That's how those friends told me. And of course, I believed them. But I did not know whether my friends told me the truth or they actually knew about the real situation. Of course, we received other news about the refugees leaving Cambodia due to the worst situations and starvations in the countryside. And as I used to live in Cambodia as well, I could always imagine that where there is a water, there is a fish, and so there will be plenty of food to live on in Cambodia. However, that was my subjective conclusion. And as I had been abroad for so long, my sentiment did not lead me to the suspicion of what I was told. I strongly believed that we have a Tonle Sap and Tonle Basa, and the food should be abundant, and I did not believe in the issue of starvation.
Thank you. The aircraft which you took from France, where did it land when on the way to Cambodia? Response. Back then, there was no direct flight to Cambodia. All the flights had to stop over and transit in Beijing. So I had to stop over in Beijing and stay there for 2 nights before I continue to Cambodia. Thank you. Question. So in Beijing, when the flight landed over there and stopped over there, who went to receive the Cambodian delegates at the airport in Beijing? Response. When I got to Beijing, I saw Cambodian youth wearing short sleeve shirt and black trousers. They were not diplomats. They were youth who spoke Khmer, and they were the staff members of the embassies. There were 4 or 5 of them standing there to wait for us. And the passenger on the plane were of 3 categories. One was the family members of Ieng Sary, and to my recollection, for this group of people, the Chinese official came to take them. And Hai Kum Sieng, who was the chargé d'affaires of Democratic Cambodia to Cuba, I knew him actually, this gentleman, because he was the former student in Moscow. He went to stay over at the Cambodian embassy in Beijing, and I had to be taken to a hotel not too far from the airport. It was actually the hotel reserved for passengers who had to transit in Beijing. Question. When you came when you arrived in the airport in Beijing, were you told of any information about Cambodia at all? When I arrived in Beijing, I did not receive any information, but the youth who went to receive us, they told me that they were the former combatants. They were supposed to be the heroes because they had conquered the war in Cambodia. And they told me that if I had free times, I should visit the Cambodian embassy. And I went to visit Tiananmen Square, and then I continue to visit the embassy, Cambodian embassy over there. And what I noted over there was that there were a lot of young people working over there, and Mr. Tu Chien was the ambassador back then. And looking at his appearance, I did not think that person was a diplomat, was an ambassador, because his physical appearance did not tell me that he was a diplomat. But he lived with his family in the embassies, and other than that, there were other young officials working at the embassy. I had met with diplomats in other countries, but for example, Mr. Pai Chien was someone who was a senior. But what I noted that was a bit strange was that there were young people working in this embassy. That was my observation. And Mr. Pai Chien also talked about the situations in Cambodia, and he told me about the situation, and he asked me a lot of questions about my knowledge about the Cambodian country. And I talked to Mr. Pai Chien, and he told me that the information that I had received about Cambodia was not true, because he continued to convince me that those people were of revisionist sentiment. So now Cambodian society at the time did not need those people anymore. So I asked other peoples about him, and I was told that he used to be a teacher back in Cambodia. But then I thought that probably this person was overjoyed with the victory. I thought to myself, I know Khieu Samphan Injury and others before, but I did not believe whatever people told me, because I had already believed in the situation back in Cambodia. Thank you. You said you met with the diplomat in Beijing, and you also listened to their description of the situation back in Cambodia. So upon hearing that story, did you still intend to return to Cambodia, or you intend to return back to France? Upon hearing the story by those diplomats, when I returned to the hotel, I thought to myself, why they told me those stories? It raised suspicion in my mind. Then I thought to myself, well, since I had already decided to return to Cambodia, I had to reach Cambodia. Thank you. While you were in Beijing, did you ever meet personally with Ieng Sary or any other senior leaders of the Democratic Cambodia while in Beijing? No, I didn't. I did not meet anyone other than the people I have just mentioned earlier. Thank you. Then, when did you leave Beijing for Cambodia? I cannot recall it well, but it could have been 2 or 3 days, no longer than 2 or 3 days after I arrived in Beijing, then I left for Cambodia. Thank you. So before you left Beijing for Cambodia, did you ever receive any information or statement made by Ieng Sary or other leaders of the Democratic Cambodia? That was before you left Beijing for Cambodia. No, I didn't. If I were in France, I would go to the news outlet and got a newspaper to read in French. But in Beijing, I did not have. I could not read Chinese, so I could not get and understand the information in Chinese. And I did not have access to Khmer-speaking radios over there as well, so I did not know any information. Thank you. So I would like to move to another topic concerning your arrival in Cambodia. So when you got back to Cambodia, I would like to know about the place you stayed as well as the work you did. When you first arrived in Cambodia, you landed at Po Chun Tong. What was your overall impression of the situation surrounding Po Chun Tong? The memory was vivid. It was like I traveled and landed in Po Chun Tong yesterday. When the aircraft landed in Cambodian territory, military students stare out of the aircraft window, and then they saw vacant lands. They saw different pictures out of the aircraft windows, and then they were very excited for arriving home. And they saw the large pits or holes because of the carpet bombardment by the U.S. B-52. So we were very deeply moved by this situation, and we wanted to arrive in Cambodia as soon as possible so that we could see by our own eyes what happened to our country. Then when we landed, personally, I can recall because I left Cambodia in 1965. Then I never returned to Cambodia until that day, because I could still recall that on that day my mother saw me off at the airport, and I look at the buildings and landscape toward the west of the airport. But when I arrived, I did not see any such same situation. I only saw a few mechanics, Chinese mechanics who were dressing in white. And other than those mechanics and technicians, I only noted that people were wearing different types of clothes. It was not the clothes worn by the people working in the airport normally. I did not know. I just wondered to myself which country I was in. I thought that I was not in any particular country. So at that time, if they ask whether or not I wanted to board the plane and return back or not, I would probably have done that, because I did not even know where and which country I was really in, because the situation was different, because the person who actually conducted the search of the arrival passenger, they had with them a bucket where they remove our belongings, and then I went out at the arrival gate, and then I hoped that I would see my wife, but actually I did not. I saw So Hong. So Hong waved his right at me. Of course, So Hong used to live in a foreign country. He visited France once or twice. I met him over there as well, and he used to tell me that if I came from Kathom hometown, he would accompany me back to my hometown. So he actually, So Hong, looked at me as if I was somebody who was not equal to him when I met him. He just pointed to other people who saying that those people would come and receive you, and then he just walked away. And then I started to get on a Volkswagen or so make of the car, I cannot recall. And then when I got on the car, they took me along the way to a Khmer Soviet Technical School in Phnom Penh. Thank you, Mr. Hong Thong Hướng. I would like to expand further on that. When you arrived in Po Chin Tong Airport, beside So Hong, did you meet anyone else? Response: I met a few other Khmer people who used to live overseas. For example, Hat Sieng Lai Ni and one or two others. Hat Sieng Lai Ni was a former student in Moscow, and I met him, and then he just tapped on my shoulder, and then he left. He did not speak much. He simply came and see me. I was surprised when I got there, because I used to know him and I consider him a close person to me. But when I met him for the first time, he simply tapped on my shoulder and left, and I was taken aback by that. And then they asked me to get into the car. Then I just did.
So Hong.
Thank you. You mentioned about So Hong. Did So Hong tell you on your arrival what position he held at the time? A response: no, I did not know at the time, but I met him in Ieng Sari. People told me that he was the close aide of Ieng Sari. Did you ask the person who took away or removed your passport from you? Did you ask them for the reason for the removal of your passport? Response: I dare not ask, because I understood the atmosphere over there. I did not even dare to open my mouth to ask. I look at the people's facial expression around me. They were very serious. I did not dare even to smile at them. Thank you. When you left the Po Chin Tong International Airport, what was your impression of the situation along the road into Phnom Penh? First, I still had a good memory of Pojantong Road connecting to Phnom Penh, and my sister's house was not quite far from the Khmer Soviet Technical School. So before I left for France, I had acquainted myself with the location. I noted that back then there were many people and traffic was quite hectic as well. But surprisingly, when I returned this time, I did not see many traffic, and I also witnessed some broken car left unattended on the street, and I also saw some of the things that had not been maintained for a long time, and houses were abandoned as well, and certain houses were not occupied by people, and trees and or grass were growing on those old and dilapidated houses, and I thought that these houses were not occupied by any owners. Question: so along the way, did you notice and the presence of any soldiers of the Democratic Cambodia guarding along the streets? Apart from the soldiers, I did not see the presence of civilians. I only noted that there were soldiers, and those are very young soldiers. Question: when the intellectuals or other Cambodian people who returned from France and elsewhere to Cambodia, did the leaders of the Khmer Rouge, Nuon Chea, Ieng Sari, or Khieu Sampon, prepare any welcome ceremony or so for those returnees? I did not meet those senior leaders. I only met Ieng Sari a few weeks later after that. When you arrived in Cambodia, the President, Prosecutor, you may continue. Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to continue my question. When you left Pojantong Airport, where did they take you to, and what work was assigned to you? On the first day of our arrival, they took us from Pojantong Airport and then they dropped us at the former Khmer Soviet Technical School. Question: Did they assign any work for you to undertake? And if so, what was the assignment and where did you undertake those assignments? When we first arrived, they told us to take a little rest. At that time, they offer us rice to eat. And they only offer us the old rice to eat. And I also noticed that people surrounding that premise are physically very thin and skinny. And they kept telling us that we had to be patient because soon the situation would be better. So we had to stay over there for a few more days. And then they assign us to go to the rice field, and they also ask us to restore broken houses as well. And sometimes they ask us to take away the rocks in order to make way for rice growing, and they also ask us to help move the houses as well. Thank you. When you were staying at the Tribunal school, did you receive any information about your wife? And if you did, where did you get the information from? Response. When I first arrived, I met some of my friends whom I had just been away from each other for 4 months or 5 months. But I saw their physical look. It was like they were the Jewish people in another country that I watched in the film. And I saw some old senior people like Mirmau and others had to do hard labor. They had to carry water, and they had to work very, very hard. And he had to pick up and search the rubbish bin in order to look for the banana skin. I used to meet those old people who ate fromage and cheese and good food back in the foreign country. But when I witnessed that situation, I was deeply moved. And when I was observing that, I saw my wife from the distance. And then I realized that my wife must have been working with this technical school. But even if my wife saw me from the distance, she dare not approach me. But not until late in the afternoon, when she completed her task, she came to meet me briefly. She told me that I had to do whatever I was assigned to do, and I must never put my hands on my vest when I talk to anyone. I had to be polite and respect the rules. And if I had anything in my possession, for example, candies or medicine or so, I must not share with anyone else. Or because if they learn that, I would be in trouble. That's what my wife told me at that time.
Thank you. Question. When did you and your wife come to live together? Response. I cannot recall it clearly. However, it was about 1 week or 10 days after. They gave us a place on the 3rd floor or something at that technical institute, and where I stayed with my wife. Thank you. My question is related to K15. Do you know K15? If so, what was K15 and where was it located, and who actually established that K15? And who actually the head of K15? Response. K15 was that technical institute. That's the code name for that institute. When I arrived, the person who was the head was Pum, Bong Pum. The person was younger than me, but out of respect, we call him Bong, or brother Pum. He was the head, and he was the one who received us. One of my friends whispered to me that that person, Pum, had another name, but I cannot recall the name, and that he used to study at that technical school, but he advised me just to ignore and pretend not to know him or to know his background. Thank you. Question. What was the purpose of the establishment of K15? Response. It was a re-education place or center. Question. Can you tell us when it was established? Response. I do not know, but when my wife returned, she went to that institute. So it means that it had been established upon the arrival of my wife in January. Question. Besides the person by the name of Pum, did you recognize any other individuals working at that technical school? Response. There were a few soldiers, or 3 or 5 soldiers, but I cannot recall the names, and they were young. Thank you. Question. Did you ever see Ieng Sari or Kisampon or Noon Chi or any other leaders of the Khmer Rouge go there to visit or to hold a meeting at K15, I mean? Respond. Upon my return and upon my departure, no, there was none. But my wife told me upon her arrival there was a study session chaired by Khieu Sampon. Question. Did she tell you the content of that study session? Response. I asked her what did he teach. She said, first, Kisampon. She actually called him brother Kisampon or Bong Kisampon. She talked that it was right that we were patriotic, returning to Cambodia, and number 2, Cambodia is being developed and it needs the resources, and also that we also have to build ourselves, and besides that I cannot recall any other point. Question. You said K15 was an re-education center. What types of people were sent to be re-educated at K15? Response. Those Cambodian people coming from overseas, like my group. However, they were also subdivided. There were those Khmer students from overseas, and there were soldiers. I learned at a later stage that some Cambodians arriving from overseas were taken away, but I didn't know where they were taken to. But in general, that location was for Cambodians arriving from overseas. However, some other Cambodians from overseas were not taken to K15, and I saw their names later at the tour slide. The majority of those people at K15 were from France, and others from the United States, or military soldiers who were later on taken away. There were also some Cambodians from the Soviet Union or from the Eastern blocs who were also later taken away from K15. Question. Did you know the reasons for the categorization of people arriving from overseas? Response. Back then I did not know. I did not know why some of the Cambodians arriving from overseas were taken away. Question. During your stay at K15, did you actually see any particular events or general events during that time? Can you describe it? Response. The general situation was that we had to rebuild ourselves. And we rebuild ourselves means to break the rock in order to build a rice field. And for example, that was done near Boracay, or to grow morning glory. And as we were told, to engage in intensive labor was an effective way to rebuild oneself. And then there would be sessions for criticism and self-criticism. And on a weekly basis, there would be a team meeting. And once in a while, there would be a study session. That was the general situation, and it is rather difficult to explain any further, as we just engage in the production, in carrying rocks, in doing whatever task we were assigned to. Some of us would work with fertilizer number 1, which was one of their main strategies. Fertilizer number 1 means the mixture of the feces with the urine. That was one of the core tasks of the revolution. And if we were able to produce effective fertilizer number 1, it would mean we were effective in our rebuilding ourselves. So in short, it means that we would be able to get rid of our existing stance in the status or in the class. Questions. My question is in regards to freedom and the disciplined practice at K15. if any of the residents at K15 or workers at K15 were they allowed any freedom, or if they made any mistake, what kind of discipline applied to them? Response. We saw first asked ourselves about what re-education was. The re-education was for us to forget everything in the past. And the main point is that we shall be led to understand that if we want a freedom, freedom does not exist because Angka or organization itself is a freedom. And the word Angka itself, for example, when it comes to criticism or self-criticism, it means we were limited to criticize our group's members only, those from overseas. Or maybe someone could not engage intensively in the labor force, or some others would still have their sentimental feeling overseas in Paris or somewhere else overseas. And if somebody senior made a mistake or something, then we would not dare to criticize. It would be Pum, the head. Pum would represent justice. He would represent Angka. And we did not have the authority to criticize him or to criticize any combatant working in that center. We could only criticize amongst our group to rebuild our stand. And usually we would engage in this criticism and self-criticism before we took a rest. And the main objective was that we would serve our boundless organization or Angka, because Angka represented the justice. And if we believed in that perception, then there would be nothing else to consider. Angka was the main thing in part of our life there. And we refashion ourselves in order to become a pure laborers or peasants class. But the question is whether the labor class or the peasant class could lead to a better future. I did not see it that way, but I was also rather confused. I was not know the intention of such re-education. Everything was mixed up. Because everything which was related to Angka would mean that thing or that aspect would be a perfection. We could only criticize our group members. So, when you come to talk about freedom, freedom did not exist in that sense. No freedom, no democracy, that means no free speech. If we were to speak, it means we might make mistake as well. That's what the situation was at K15. We did not have a freedom of speech. We also did not have a freedom of not speaking. Questions. What about the disciplinary sanction? How the disciplinary sanction worked if someone made a mistake? Response. In that center, I never witnessed any beat up or any torture. I also never saw anyone died at that location. I, of course, saw people who were taken out, but I did not know the reason for them to be taken out. Probably they were taken out by Onka for some other reasons. Some soldiers who came with me, they were taken out, and some of them were not satisfied with the situation at that center. At that time, I did not have any suspicion at all that they would be taken out and executed at S21. I never thought of it that way. I did not witness any physical torture. Of course, there were these psychological torture that we suffered by ourselves internally, but we were never beaten up. Question: what about the food regime? Response: in my book, I wrote a portion regarding the food ration. It was like a thick gruel, but it's not a rice. There were more morning glory with just a few grains of rice. There was barely any fish in the soup, or in that gruel mixed with morning glory. It's like the food we give to pig to eat. Question: who actually made a decision regarding this food ration? Was there any order, or who actually made that decision? Response: I did not know. Everybody said it was from Onka. Question: what was the purpose of the establishment of Onka, and what did it mean? Response: I think we have to ask the brothers or bongs who actually established Onka. For us, Onka asked us to re-educate ourselves, but I did not know the purpose of such re-education. Question: did you ever hear Ing Sari or Noon Chi or Kil Sampon say anything or disseminate anything regarding the lines of the party from the upper to the lower echelon, either at K15 or at other locations? Response: I stayed at K15. That was after my arrival in Cambodia, and until the time I left in '79, I never heard of the name Noon Chia. I did not know who he was. And during the time of my stay at K15, we heard of the word Onka, and Onka educated us that we shall have pride in the Cambodian revolution, that we shall rebuild ourselves. I heard of all that points, but I did not know of the purpose of such a rebuilding or re-education until when it should conclude. As I said, I did not know the purpose of the rebuilding oneself, or how we should learn anything regarding the revolution through such a medium. I could not grasp anything at the time. I just blindly followed what I was asked to do. I was rather hopeless back then, and I just wish the end would come. When we heard on the radio that the revolution would be marvelous and that it would last for the next 3,000 years, it was very difficult to recount the story, but in short it means the future was not near. Thank you. Question. Did you ever know or hear about the disappearance of people during the Khmer Rouge regime? And what does it mean? And why some people disappeared? Response. I came to know about the disappearance clearly only when I returned to Phnom Penh in May or June 1979. At that time, I went to Tul Slai, which was also known as S21, and I worked there for a period of time. And there, where I learned that those comrades who disappeared hid their names at Tul Slai. Then I realized that those friends who disappeared from the Red Land camp were sent to be killed at the Prey Kung or Kung forest. It's about 3 kilometers from Tul Slai. It's just a rough estimation of the distance, because from the Dai Krahom or the Red Land camp we could see that area. So some of the people had their names listed at S21, and some were at that Red Land camp in Steng Trong district. Question. Can you tell us more regarding the place where you stayed and work? Did you personally witness the activities of the Khmer Rouge cadres? What did they do toward the Cambodian people at the location where you either lived or worked? Response. At K15 or at other locations, we only lived within the parameter of the camp. We did not have any contact with the outsider or with the people. We were not allowed to do so. So during my entire time staying in the camps during the Khmer Rouge regime, I was not aware of the living condition of the people. We did not receive any letters from anyone. We were not visited by anyone. We only lived amongst ourselves. And we were not allowed to contact any other individuals besides the members of our group. For example, at K15, I saw an old man who was walking along the rail tracks. If we were to go and talk to him, then we would be criticized during the meeting. So besides who were allowed by UNCTAD to contact, we would not be allowed to contact any other individual. So I did not know anything at all regarding the living status of the Cambodian people. We were told that people would have 3 meals per day in the community, but in reality we did not know anything, and we did not witness any such a situation. And when we were told that they had 3 meals per day, we wished that we would be able to join the people at the community to have that same luxury of 3 meals per day. Question. I'd like to move on to another topic. It is in relation to D2. Can you tell us what D2 was and where it was located and the purpose for its establishment? Response. I stayed at K15 for a while after my arrival. Probably I had stayed there for 3 months or a little bit more than 3 months. Then some of us were transferred to the factory and others were sent to Uncle J. It was a state farm. As for myself and a few of my friends, there were 5 other friends, we were sent to D2. D2 was a factory located in between Phnom Penh to Prey Pneu. It was around the vicinity of kilometer number 6, but I currently cannot locate that place. It was an old factory. We were sent there, and there were 5 of us all together, and the head of the factory by the name of Sok told us that during the attack on Phnom Penh, Angka instructed him and his group, who were soldiers, and there were about 200 of them, to station at that factory. And his groups, the majority of them were young soldiers, made their base there for various reasons, including that they were not familiar with the Phnom Penh location. So they based in that old factory. They did not even know what a refrigerator looked like. And he was instructed by Angka to make the machinery in that factory operational. And as I observed in the factory, there was him who was a soldier, and there were a few Chinese Cambodian family, and he told me that they were the former workers who used to work in that factory, so that the factory could function as these former workers could teach the soldiers to operate the rice threshing machinery over there. Question. Did you ever meet the Cambodian intellectuals whom you knew at D2? Response. Besides my group, that is a group of 5 members, I only saw the soldiers and the families of soldiers, and occasionally I saw a Bon Wait who came to inspect the place. I did not know him, but I was told that it was a Bon Wait who came to inspect the place, but I never saw anybody else. Question. Did you ever see Ieng Sari, Kisampon or Noon Chi visiting D2? Or was there a meeting held at D2? Response. No.
At D2, what was your main function and what was the day-to-day work assigned to personnel over there? Response. The main function of D2 was rice mill, but it was a traditional rice milling factory, and there were some personnel who were attached to China in order to learn some skill in refining iron ore. And iron ore was the raw material, and normally every day they would send a young teenager to go out to Phnom Penh to collect the iron pieces, and then they would be it would be collected and refined. And when I went to visit that factory, I was happy because I thought that it was a place where we would meet other peoples over there. And then when we got there, they told us that they told us that we were called the front people, and I noted that those people knew me, that I was from the front, but the Angka advised us that we had to hide our own identity, and we had to try to blend ourselves with the people. So we had to remember that in our mind, that we must not let other people know that we were from a foreign country or we were educated overseas. We had to be friends with people and peasants at the base. And when we got to B2, people over there knew where we were from. And Brother Pum, who told us not to reveal our identity to them, actually those people knew us already. So we could not maintain the secrecy. We did not know whether or not we could really maintain the secrecy about our identity, because they had already known our identity already. And people over there told me that I should join his group. Then our friends who went there, who told me that we must remove our mentality of being intellectuals, and we had to blend ourselves with other peasants, and we have to forge ourselves with the people over there, and then try to integrate ourselves into the group. And they told me that they told me that they needed technician people with technical skills or so. So it was like they were trying to convince me in order to elicit the answer from me. And they tried to persuade me in many ways. For example, they needed technical skill people in order to ensure that the factory would be operational. But then we did not tell them about our skills, because it was the order from Angka that we must not reveal our identity. So I did not join the team. Instead, we just gather our own team. And at that time, I was assigned to be the team leader, because I was senior compared to other fellow folks over there. And my team was responsible for cutting woods in the carpenter teams, actually. And I myself had never crafted woods or so. I told them that I was ignorant. I did not know anything. They asked us to try to craft the woods to make furnitures and things like that, and they asked us to look at the design of the furnitures or so. So I had to learn how to craft the skill. And actually, I knew something, but I did not share with them because I was terrified and worried. And people over there was very frustrated and disappointed with me because I told them that I did not know anything. So I pretended that I did not know anything, and consequently, I could live together with them. The President. Thank you, witness. The time is now convenient for the day adjournment. The chamber will adjourn now, and we will resume tomorrow at 9. And tomorrow morning we are going to hear the testimony of Mr. Sung Sik Kun. And then after the conclusion of the question by the civil party lawyers, we will give the floor to the defense lawyer for Kieu Sampon first. And Mr. Ong Tung Heung, your testimony is not yet concluded, so we will invite you to come to the court again. Tomorrow morning we are going to hear the testimony of Mr. Sung Sik Kun first, but alternatively you will be invited to stand by as well, because if due to health reason Mr. Sung Sik Kun is unable to testify before the chamber, then you will take his place tomorrow. And court officer, please facilitate with the vessel unit to provide assistance to him and accommodation and lodging for him, and please have them back to this court room tomorrow morning before 9 o'clock. And security guards are instructed to bring the co-accused to the detention facility and bring them back to this courtroom before 9 o'clock in the morning. The court is now adjourned.